How's it going?
Pretty good, man. Welcome to Instagram Live.
My first time. I'm super excited.
Awesome, man. Glad to have you back. We were supposed to come on Friday and then had to reschedule last minute, but
Yeah.
good to finally get it done. Yeah, so you've been on the podcast, and I thought it'd be fun to get you on live as well because you come at the problems that we're all facing with COVID-19, especially as an entrepreneur, and also as an educator, and also as a community worker, right?
Yeah.
You're someone who's frequently been online now, more on socials, trying to promote your own following online about like the mind. I can never pronounce this.
Meister mindset.
There you go. That's a tongue twister for me. I don't know why, but So really to get into it, man. How are you doing? And how's the apocalypse?
Crazy, man. Thanks for asking, and really appreciate being on here. It's been interesting time for me because, as you said, I'm in rolling with a lot of different things, and how each of those organizations are adjusting to this environment, and also on my personal life adjusting to this new environment. It's been interesting.
Yeah.
On Conduit's side, we don't have any volunteers on location at the moment. So we're thankful for that. Everybody's safe in their, home countries, so to speak. And we're working closely with our partners to see how we can support, if anything from our side, and keeping appraised of what's going on back home as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you're really experiencing this at a multi level, because from Conduit as an international level, you're dealing with a lot of international moving parts. With Computech College, you're dealing with education, which is now shifted to virtual. I mean, last week, you were talking about adjusting to this new normal of everything being virtual online. One of the marketplaces that you have with Computech is that you bring in people who need the benefit of working in a classroom, or working face to face, who are very old school in that kind of mind state, into one place. And now they are disrupted as well and forced to be online.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, is that a blessing in disguise? Is that forcing people to go virtual and to become part of like the more of a modern workforce, or is it hampering growth and development? Great question.
It's interesting when you said blessing in disguise. It is kind of like that, but I think it's hard to think that way in moments of chaos, but there are golden opportunities when there are chaos. I think we talked about this when we're in the in-person podcast session about finding opportunities in chaos. And for us at Computech, we actually had a rollout to, as you said, we don't believe, at least to support our demographic of students, we don't do purely online training, but we do supportive like videos and materials. And we've been using Google Classroom for a couple of years now, but we had a plan to roll out a bit of online training, because that is the reality of the workforce that many of our students are going into. And that was a plan that we had over this year, 2020. And we had to do that essentially in like 2 days. So it was an incredible, drive from my entire team, that during this crisis, they all stepped up. We got, we're regulated by the ministry, so we got a notice from the ministry saying, let us know what your alternative measures are in terms of education, or are you going to completely shut down? What are the options? And for our demographic, brother, like we have, people that they don't have laptops or computers at home. Some of them, I just had a student today that just landed recently, so doesn't have a mobile phone, doesn't have a lot of that a lot of people would take for granted. How do you continue that person's education? How do you get them comfortable with a lot of the technology that they need to be comfortable in to
Mhm.
continue to execute in that environment. So it's been a massive challenge, but my instructors really stepped up, my staff really stepped up, and we've been running in terms of like minimal. I think the ministry's I know the ministry's rule is 50 in terms of population in any given area, and we're at about like 20-25 on both campuses. But that's really for supporting people that don't have the opportunity to access the internet. But I mean, I think Ford just made an announcement today to shut down everything as of Wednesday. And this past week, we really had the opportunity to set everybody up so that we're able to fully comply with that.
That's great. So you're preemptively sort of migrating everyone online and training them on how to connect with resources online. Is that right?
Yeah, and like I said, there's people that don't have that access, right? And people that are not comfortable with that. So we've had to stay open at a minimal capacity to get those people there, give them printed documents because they can't go to the library and print them out, printed material so that they can keep up with the curriculums, or show them how they can access that online. Like, the other reality is you're trying to access your laptop, but your kids are streaming videos or whatever, right? And how do you navigate that and continue to support yourself in terms of your education? There's so many challenges there, but I'm grateful and appreciative of the teachers that are on board and going the extra mile to support the students,
Mm-hmm.
and the students that are being patient and understanding in terms of this new environment that we're kind of forcing them into, right?
Yeah.
But it's an interesting space. But as a as part of the leadership team for the organization, it really, at the end of the day, you see, for us, it's the values that each member has in terms of the organization, right? At the end of the day, we're here to support the students, and we all believe that education is a way to bring that person up. So if we take that education away from them, we're taking a lot of hope away, right? And especially for our students who are, refugees in some case, highly educated, working at, fast food restaurants, taking away that hope is like, a huge mental torture for them moving forward. So we've positioned ourselves as the support for them in all things, not just the education, but in their experience here in Canada as they attempt to integrate into the Canadian workforce. And so proud of my team. Like, I can say that as a leader, hey, as a CEO, this is what we want to do. But at the end of the day, it's the entire team that implements that. And that comes back to the values, right? So, just as I was thinking about our discussion and maybe some insights for other leaders and other organizations, like, I think it goes back to, what is your value as an organization? What is your core? What is your why for your organization? And if you can come back to that first, and decide, well, how do we continue to provide this product and service that is our organization?
No, that really comes back down to it, because I guess from talking to you and talking to other community members and other entrepreneurs and people who run companies, it all comes down to that. Like, in an age where things are being disrupted in literally a week, and everyone's facing the same kind of disruption, a lot of opportunity opens up as well. Yeah. And what I'm trying to get into is that for the people you serve, right?
Yes.
Like, let's talk about their situation, right? You're telling me that they don't have access to internet, computers, or is it that, like, they have kids at home that take up the bandwidth that they have at the internet? Like, what are they dealing with? What are the challenges there? Sure.
I mean, it's not all students. Like, our IT students are generally, this was an easier transition for them.
Yeah.
But we also teach PSWs, personal support workers, early childcare assistance. Like another challenge with them is they have a placement component. All the placements, all the daycare shut down. So where do they go? What are their job opportunities going to be like? You know, we're in a unique space, brother, where a lot of my students, you know, don't have that access, and so how do we support? And it's really on a case by case basis. But you know, I'm not trying to plug in Maestro mindset here, but it does come back to the mindset, right?
Yeah.
Like and that's why I'm saying values. What are the values of your organization, and what is your mindset in terms of those deliverables, right? Like I've been chatting with other entrepreneurs where, and even other colleges in our space, they had to shut down because their staff was just like, we're not going to come, you know, we're just going to stay home, etc. Right? And I understand that, you know, my wife is a physician, she's on the front lines of this. I get that from a health perspective, and it is absolutely a crisis, right? And social distancing, all these things that are being suggested by the government and the health authority, I fully believe, and you know, I'm doing my best to comply to all of those things, right? Because I believe that's what's going to help us through this situation. But you know, there's a lot of my staff that have chosen to come support, and we're doing it in shifts, you know, to maintain a low population in the campus. But the fact that that person wants to come speaks to their values, right? And speaks to their mindset, their belief in what we do at the college.
Yeah. And absolutely. I think this is a time for community and for bringing people together and being able to, like, you know, orchestrate their skill sets into something, into a common good, into something beneficial.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people who are, you know, with the startup community, from the innovation community, from, you know, coming from places of business, they're naturally inclined to do this, right? To organize people and bring them together. And what I'm thinking is, like, you know, I was just talking to Satish Bala from Bala Group.
Yeah, I saw a bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you joined in.
Doing some amazing things.
Absolutely. And one of his chief concerns is his kids at home and what their schooling is like, right? Yeah. Henry, who handles the BloomX, handles the organization at the BloomX, you know, he's now destructive because his kids, he's now has to organize as well, right? He's at home working with them, and he realizes there's no school. And he's taking it as an opportunity. He's like, hey, I'm going to teach you yoga every day, you know, something different.
Yeah.
Right? So these disruptions are opening up new ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, how do we translate the old way of doing things to a virtual environment?
Yes.
But through this virtual environment, how can we transform and become the kind of society we need to be?
Yes.
How can we retool our citizens, our children, our systems into more effective systems for the coming future?
Yeah. And I love the fact that so many people have been reaching out. You know, friends that I haven't spoken to in a while, you know, are connecting, and we're doing, you know, similar chats like this that we haven't done, you know, in years. And it's just because of this kind of situation, right? The situation that we're in. So I think, you know, we talk a lot about, last year there was this trend of mental health, but there was a lot of, you know, technology or business ideas behind it. But I felt what was missing was that connection, right? So it's kind of a reset that we're going back to the heart of it and reminding ourselves this is how we connect. And I think that's going to add a lot of value to, you know, as you mentioned, opportunities, business opportunities that are coming about. Yeah, you know, there's this post that I have on my Instagram about you know, the world talking about we can't shut down, you know, for emissions, climate change, etc. And then nature is like, here's a virus practice, and you know that's you know really out there for one specific thing. But I think it speaks to your point of here's a great moment to reset, take a step back, and really reflect on what's going on. And I think there's a danger to constantly seeing these COVID-19 announcements and, getting stuck on social media, that's the easy way to, fill our time here. But I hope people take an opportunity to like sit back and reflect and really think about, what has happened for them in these past few years and seeing the situation now where they'd like to take things. It's really important to self-reflect. And I think Henry's idea of, teaching his kids yoga and stuff is amazing.
Absolutely.
What are you doing?
Man, I should be. So I'm not sure if I told you this, but we're basically neighbors as well. We live down the street from each other, basically. But I just bought my first house, man, like 3 weeks ago. I moved in.
Oh wow!
3 weeks ago. Okay.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm joining this homeowner life right when all this happens. So I am insanely stressed out, and notably so. Like I haven't got furniture in here properly. I mean, I just got a microwave.
Yeah.
And it's a really big mind struggle, right? To think about as an entrepreneur. Yes, you used to risk, but it's about calculated risk. So when I'm buying a property, when you're like have all this, like, I had 3 months of runway for my business wiped away. I have now 9 people part of the company that I have no work for them to do.
Yeah.
Right. And now I have this house that I have to now take care of, a family that lives with me now that I look after. And again, it's all disruption.
Yeah.
Right. Everything's been wiped away. Now it's a clean slate of how do we move forward. Yeah. And it's a scary time to really think as both as a homeowner and as an entrepreneur about how do we operate in time of complete disruption. Yeah. And yet, this is the environment we're made for.
Yes, absolutely.
This is the environment we're made for. And I've had the pleasure. Main reason I've done so many of these live chats is because, hold the audience semblance of what can I do? And I was talking earlier to Satish about this, right? I feel like everybody kind of went through this 3 radical mindset, right? I was like, oh my God, what do we do? To is like, hey, what can I do within the constraints of what it is? And what can I do more of?
Yes.
And everyone's kind of going through this radical mind shift at like different spaces.
Yeah.
And I really quickly realized people who came out of like the innovation mindset, who benefit of coming from like incubators, accelerators, or a startup, where you're kind of trained to think in this kind of mindset, they're like transitioning much faster. But a lot of people are still catching up. But this is kind of the general trend, right? Of people going from a shock value of, oh my God, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
To be like, hey, what can we do now? Yeah. And right from the beginning, our thing was, oh, cool. We have the podcast set up. I have my lights here. Yeah. I'm now set up at home. I have this house. Might as well. Let's do Zoom virtual. Yeah. Let's talk to people like yourself, right now.
I was thinking, like, as you were saying that, I was like, wow, you have a ton of great studio space. Sorry,
you cut off there.
Oh, I was saying as you were talking about your house and the lack of furniture, I was thinking that's some great studio space you have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It opened up.
Yeah,
absolutely, it opened up. So I'm actually waiting for some stuff from Amazon up here to arrive. But once that does, we're gonna have a full, like, kind of a mini studio kind of set up. Yeah, I'm gonna call it my soapbox.
Yeah,
nice. Just focus on message. What can we deliver out? Yeah. Like the BoomX podcast really was started to help companies deliver their message, to help other organizations, like startups and organizations, talk about what are their value sets, and how to amplify that voice they have.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do.
Have you thought about, a lot of people are talking about online classes. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, a lot of platforms are opening up themselves. There's a lot of people who do online works, webinars and stuff, doing that. There's also the exploitative crowd, right? Saying like, hey, 90% off, but they've always had that price.
Yes, yeah.
But I think like problem is it's too much noise.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people are having a hard time filter to the noise, and one of the things we're hoping to become is applying a filter. So talking to people like you in a long form context about what are the things you talk about, preach about with your training seminars, Mindset, and with Conduit, and with Computech. Getting into your minds in a long form helps people kind of realize, oh, I want to hear more of this.
Yes.
The power of free, right, is that the only thing you got to commit to is your time of understanding. So you're committing your time here, spending like almost like half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour with us. People who kind of come in and kind of transact with you, can now just, they're just sitting at home, worried about stuff anyways. They can come in and find out what's in your mindset and connect with that. Then perfect. How can I get more of this from that person or from other people? How can I pursue these ideas better? So what I'm really interested in is opening up a marketplace for ideas, right? A marketplace for ideas, and not just like quick snippets of ideas where like, it's very viral, but like very fluid, like very like, it doesn't matter that much. But creating long-form content, long-form kind of exploration of ideas where people have a platform to explore things in detail. And people who really want to connect to it can connect to it. Right? So
that's awesome, man, because I think a lot of people will be, in that introspective mode, right? Like what you said about what am I good at, and how can I double down on that, etc. Listening to these kinds of long form podcasts gives you a great way to explore things that are not within your circle, or it opens up your blinders, right? Running through this everyday, I guess the best term is rat race. You miss out on opportunities if you don't have an opportunity to connect in different, like going to an art show, going to like a cooking class, whatever, seeing different things opens you up to other opportunities that you might be interested in. Like everyone, as you said, there's so much noise. Like a lot of people are talking about these online classes, which I think is a good thing. I mean, if the content is there, content is king at the end of the day. But everyone's doing online classes. How do you pick the right one, et cetera, right? Or you got to go through a bunch. What other unique thing can you offer during this time period? And I think it's really valuable to do something on the 90% off. This is a great time. There's a lot of people that are looking to create their presence online, figure things out. This is a great time to experiment with that, connect with people, this way, and see what works, right? Or listen to long form podcasts and those ideas that might be able to help you out. Long form.
Yeah, the long form's good because like how much opportunity do you have to have a long form discussion about things you care about? Right. Like usually, if you're lucky, you can get invited to a panel discussion or like a 10-minute thing. And if you're talking to yourself, one of the most weirdest things to do is talk to a camera and trying to do like a 10-minute clip even. Like you're pretty good at this. Over the last year, I feel like you've trained yourself, and now you're doing communication a lot more frequently. But for me, it wasn't until like the pandemic hit, right, that where you started doing these kind of, I started talking to the camera and a microphone. Doing this kind of communication. Like even my Instagram before this, I'd never actually talked to people like this, through the camera. I've never done a selfie like this when I'm talking, right? I always thought it was such a weird experience to talk to a device. And now it's just like, boom, it's become the new normal. You have to. So I think the learning curve, right, like of how to use and blend with machines better and use them as tools that they're intended to be, is definitely taking an upward tick because people are forced to do them.
How has it been for you guys setting these up?
I mean, I don't think we had a problem too much of asking for people to come on. We're just having a problem with filtering, the best kind of stories to support. So if you notice, like we started this hashtag hacking COVID-19. So the reason behind it is like we're trying to figure out all these stories of people who are trying to exist in this new reality, right? Whether you're frontline, trying to figure out how to fight the disease itself, to the second line, what we're calling the second line of defense, where you're the innovators trying to create a new infrastructure, right? From everything from education to how people work from home to how to keep people self-quarantined, how to keep things running, how to run your business together, right? So we're trying to explore all that. So using this hashtag, we're trying to bring together the community. So we're really looking to explore people who are, one, handling disruptions of their own business and taking things virtual and running that and sharing, having a knowledge share of how telling people, other people how to do that.
Yeah.
To two people who are working on innovative solutions, like, oh, what can we deploy right now?
Right.
You know, I've talked to about 3 investors so far, and it blew my mind. They said the same thing. It's like they're like, for the first time, I'm not looking at things as the ROI in revenue.
Right.
I'm not looking at it like, oh, how much revenue you're going to produce? How much can you produce? How much can you grow to? They're looking at things like, what impacts can this have right now? And it's changed the mindset of how they look at projects.
Yeah.
So they're not looking at things from a financial point. They're like, oh, impact level. And now they're looking at different kind of companies, different kind of solutions, people differently than they regularly would have.
Yeah.
So like we're seeing radical mind shifts happening, right, in our collective consciousness and how we operate as a society.
Yeah.
So I think the next thing is going to happen is how does that lead to a new infrastructure, right? That's virtual, that's more transparent, more fluid, and is that going to last? Like if like this pandemic lasts for 3 months, 7 months, we might be running in a completely different reality than what we used to. We're going to function completely differently.
I definitely would agree with that, because once you believe, conceive, achieve, right? Now people are conceiving what it feels like to be working at home. And for those people that they're not used to it, they're being forced into it, and it is becoming a potential new reality for them. And I think once you go into that, it's hard to go back. So I definitely think there's going to be a lot of changes, as you said, a lot of new opportunities that are coming up. I always think about, like, is this now going to be, because there's so much in terms of Uber Eats, what are the other ones? All these services, right? Like fast food delivery services. Like, is it going to be then, is this a huge opportunity to push automation for vehicles, because people aren't going to want to, the social distancing now is top of mind for people. How much is that going to continue? Like, it was hilarious to see the Prince, do, I mean, for us, Vanakkam, but for some people, Namaste, like, and now I know Sadhguru, who I follow, was like, oh, that's why people were doing this in ancient times and blah, 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 right? So are people then, is this like a huge push for things like automation of vehicles, et cetera, right? It's going to be interesting. And on the education side, we're in a space where we specifically focus on, you need to be in the classroom. And for me, I don't know if it's 10 years or whatever down the line, I've always been looking at the virtual reality aspect for our students, because you need that interaction and you need that kind of immersive experience to learn, in my opinion, which is why I like people in the class, right? I think that's a great way to learn. But if this continues forward, like if we're going to, whether there's virus situations or not, I mean, those can always come up. Whether we're more in line towards this online world, is for education then the virtual reality a better option, because bandwidths are going to go up, more businesses are going to go online. So maybe that's a way to connect. And, especially where in our space, soft skills are so vital. That's a much better way to get into environments where you're constantly practicing, your greeting in the workplace, your greeting in terms of customer service for your so I've always thought about that, and I think, is it the Oculus for Samsung, where you just put it on, it's from your mobile phone? That is a option for a lot of people right at home, right? A very affordable option. So for me to help my students, help create that virtual reality environment where it's customer service training, I think this is increasing the opportunity for us to offer that as a product and service in the future.
Cool. Yeah, I mean,
know anyone in VR? I have a good friend in AR actually, but
yeah. I mean, it's funny when you talk about this because me and your brother were talking about AR solutions for medtech solutions like about a year ago.
yes,
Honestly, like I'm a little hesitant about the VR AR community. Like right now, it's functioning as like a game kind of trendy thing. And you're right. There's a lot of affordable options. Like one of the things I love doing for like on Christmas, I gave away was as Secret Santa gifts was Google Cardboard. It's basically like $10, $15 for like super cheap gift. You can get a cardboard device that you unfold and you attach to your phone. It turns your phone into a VR headset. $10.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Well, now that we live close to each other, brother, I know what I'll be getting for Christmas from you.
Yeah, there you go, man. I got you. But like, yeah, absolutely. There's ways to connect, but I still feel like VR and AR is still out there from the promise it has to deliver.
Yeah.
If you actually know this, like one of the things I realized was VR and AR, as an industry, boomed and busted like 7 times in 30 years.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Right? So right from the 60s, there's these people that used to wear a computer, like have a harness with physical, like, you know, one of those big desktops hooked to their back, running into a VR headset, saying that this is the future. It's going to allow, like, you know, like construction people and like maintenance workers to do all this work, and they could use this for this. And it actually boomed and busted about 7 times the past 30 years. Each iteration, each period, brought on a new way of hardware and software solutions to push it.
Yeah.
But it kept going down, kept going up, right? And a lot of industries do that. Like, you know, video games had the same thing, go up and down, right? And different kind of modalities came up, the console versus PC. So any kind of new technologies, it goes through these boom and bust cycles to a point that it hits like a proper product market fit for it to boom up, boom up. Even like digital cameras and cameras in general, right? Almost everything had this kind of period where it had to hit. So VR and AR.
Google Glasses is perhaps another example.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So, I mean, it all comes down to the product market fit and the deployability of the product. But absolutely, I think there's even like low-tech solutions. Like, it doesn't have to be VR, AR. But how do we deploy things now, you know, in a scalable way to meet the needs of the people?
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm interested about is that now we have the capability of wiping the slate clean and kind of starting anew and building new infrastructure that's much needed.
Yes. Yeah. It's exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really sad that, you know, we met the last time we met face to face. You had Stitch, which I was so excited about, and you know, I was telling everybody I could find at the event at Paddle for Good.
Yeah.
And I wanted to connect with you because I wanted to do an event with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, hopefully sometime soon. But that was a fantastic technology that you shared.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we really love that product. And talking about like, you know, heartbreaks is that we had 3 months of like meetings and events scheduled where we can push that product. That was meant to be our main product line push.
Yeah.
And we've been prepping for. We had like 1,000 Stitch cards coming in that we're getting ready to distribute out there, and boom, the entire product line is now disrupted. It's in an environment where people don't meet anymore.
Yeah.
Right. A physical card that becomes like a digital business card. It allows you to transact and show information and broadcast information to between people's phones.
Yeah.
I mean, that physical interaction is not happening. How can you move that kind of product?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious, other than the idea, because the idea would change there, right? There's some disruption there. Is there also, different thoughts that you have in terms of, MVP, like how you're setting up things, like you mentioned you bought the 1,000 cards. Would you rethink that now, given this environment? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
In terms of operations?
Yeah, our entire operations plan for the next 3 months has been wiped.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, like everything's gone. Like we're starting from complete scratch right now, and we're pivoting what we can. And one of the things we're looking right now is to create, again, like we said, like a physical marketplace for ideas, right? So we're taking what we're doing right now and trying to create a database of people who are, the thought leaders, who can have ideas to share, projects to work on, and do that. So people can find a verified database, right? Of people who are willing to have long-form discussions, or willing to have meetings, who are willing to showcase, hey, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is what I do, right? And might be willing to take a call and talk about an idea.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we're working on, and we're excited to be doing so. And we're looking to kind of blend Sitch and the marketplace together.
Okay.
Right. So one of the promises of Sitch is like, hey, here's one platform that can connect you to all your socials, all your contact information, your bio, etc., but that you can control.
Yeah.
Right. The way I see it is that it's like a your contacts on your phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
How annoying is that when someone changes their phone number, you have to go in and update it.
Yes.
What if we can have a universal contacts page where you, the individual, changes your number, changes your where to find you, and everybody who has connected to you just gets an instant update.
Yeah.
Just update on their device, update on their work. So I find that there's a modality in that. So we're pairing that together with the right people.
Yeah.
And seeing where it takes us. Hopefully, we can get a product market fit with that.
What are your thoughts on? I don't hear as much buzz as I guess this time last year, the blockchain. It's generally connected with like cryptocurrency, but it's not exclusive to cryptocurrency.
It's not.
Do you hear anything in your circles about blockchain?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I do. To be honest, blockchain community is kind of quiet. Right? It's gone quiet down since 2017. Even crypto, even as volatile as it's been, like there hasn't been much movement in the community as it was. 2017, when things were booming, all these ideas were like, oh, the promise of blockchain, the promise of crypto, right? But now I think the real players are like more behind the scenes, right? They're the banking peoples, they are the logistics companies, they're the information architects who are looking at things like, hey, how can we future-proof our stuff using blockchain?
Right.
But so we don't hear much about it because I feel like it's a lot of background work happening on it. The real promise of blockchain is it's actually slower, but it's a new way of promoting transparency, of verification. The most interesting thing I find with blockchain is KYC and AML.
Right.
So know your customer and anti-money laundering. Part of what blockchain brought on was the ability to do that at scale at very low cost. And there now exist all these ways of doing of connecting people and verifying who they are. Like think about the biggest problem we have right now, right? It's not the fact that people can't find each other because we have internet and social media and content, but it's the fact that you can't verify that they are who they say they are. Imagine clicking, like there's so many people right now trolling on Zoom, like connecting to Zoom calls and putting a whole bunch of filth and garbage content out there, and kind of disrupting people from taking on calls now, right?
Yeah.
So there's like psychiatrists I'm talking to who are like, I'm down to like talk to people for free, run therapy sessions online, but how do I transact in a marketplace where people are not going to come and waste my time?
Yes. Yeah.
How can I verify each other? So one of the things that blockchain has done is figuring out a way of cost effectively verifying people. What I'm looking forward to is how do people use that to create marketplaces for people to transact better, openly, and more transparently. Yeah.
I was I've been very excited about blockchain for a long time, but I haven't heard as much as a few years ago. But I think there's huge potential there, and we have like a blockchain, one of the key players in Toronto, I think. Downtown in Toronto, his name's I'm missing his name right now, but I think
talking about Trevor.
Sorry,
Trevor. Oh, okay, no, I thought you were talking about Trevor Kavarko, but Dan Sullivan.
I can't remember, but they have an institution in downtown Toronto, and he's one of the lead people. It'll come to me, but it's him and his son. I feel like it's a Dan something. But I'm sure people can.
Yeah, if you're talking about Dan Sullivan, he's definitely one of the most leaders in the space. So he started an institution in blockchain, one of the earliest institutions in that. I forgot what it's called, but I actually thought he was in New York, But if he's here, it's amazing. Him and his son actually wrote a book on blockchain, which is like the book on blockchain. I have it. It's one of the best kind of overviews into what is blockchain and what it could be.
Yeah.
And if it's and Dan Sullivan actually wrote the book too on like the nature of the firm back in the day, in the 90s.
Okay.
Like, you know, which pretty much put a calculation on why do companies hire people rather than, you know, than give work to a company. You know, why bring this resource internally versus transact with them externally?
Yeah.
Right. So, like he brought up the discussion that employees are actually super ineffective. Yeah. Right. Think about when you're working a 9 to 5, especially an office job, you're not really working 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You're probably having 4 to 8 hours a week of high productivity. And most of the time, you're just kind of like shifting through emails, kind of pretending to do work, and kind of in this like gray zone.
Yeah.
Then you flip it to a switch, and then you do a bunch of work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And companies pay for that. They pay for your overhead, pay for the space, pay for the lights, the water, all that kind of stuff, and your salary just for the security of having you there physically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when things go, they can control the workflow.
Yeah.
Right? And they pay a lot. There's a lot of sacrifice that gets monetary that goes into that security.
Yeah.
So he talked about, you know, when does it come to a point where you can now, instead of internalizing a resource, externalize it?
What's that book called?
So Dan Sullivan wrote a few books. So I think it's called The Nature of the Firm, and it's quoted a lot. Yeah, it's quoted a lot in blockchain work because, you know, he really wrote the foundations of the blockchain community nowadays follows as well.
Yeah.
So
no, I get a lot of calls for executive assistants.
Mm-hmm.
Like people want to hire executive assistants.
Yeah.
And people always ask me how I manage things. I had an EA before, and at different points, but right now different people are managing different things, and I always think about where can I automate here. Yeah. You know, and there's a few people I know that are in the chatbot like AI space. Mm-hmm. So they're always, you know, reminding me of that too. But I think I'd love to read that book. It sounds very interesting because, yeah, it is a lot of work to make that person. Whereas, but it's also, you know, you got to be sure of your operations to send that out to someone, right? Like if you're going to use a chatbot, for example, or automate part of your processes, you have to like clearly outline them. Perhaps that happens a lot in the tech space, but in some, you know, where it's clearly defined, but some sectors you can't do that, right? So it's a balance. But yeah, I'm a big believer in that.
Absolutely, automation is key. And one of the things that software has brought on is the ability for everyday people to automate a lot of their life very cost effectively and with very little knowledge of how to do it too, right? And I'm excited to see like how people explore a lot of that in the coming days to make their life a lot easier. Earlier on, we were talking about with Satish, how now work is not like work anymore, especially now post COVID-19. It's what instead of work-life balance, it's work-life integration. How the two blend together.
Yeah, and he's in a lot of interesting space because I believe he has an incubator as well, right?
Yes. You guys definitely got to connect.
We have connected. We just have never met face to face.
Okay. Well, you guys got to get in a call for sure and keep in contact because I think you guys are both in a very similar kind of mindset. Yeah. And we'll definitely connect very well. But other than that, man. And we've been at it for another hour.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So, this has been great. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks.
But let's do more of these and keep in contact.
For sure. Yeah. All the best to you. And when this is all died down, hopefully we'll catch up over at my place or your place soon, since we're neighbors.
Absolutely. You got it.
All right.
Perfect, buddy.
Take care, buddy.
Take care. Yeah. See ya.